What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode for Living in El Paso. I'm Alexa Peña, and today I want to talk about a very hot, trending topic, which is going to be the NAR settlement. So if you have not heard, there's this settlement that happened, and I don't want to take too much time just talking about that settlement. I will drop down below some articles, some fact checks that you guys can check yourself. But long story short, there was a lawsuit that happened, and because of this lawsuit, now there's new regulations on how you need to conduct business when you are working with a buyer or a seller. So with this being said, I want to talk to you about the key component of hiring a buyer's agent and what this means to you and what they can do different to protect you and your interest. Now, the number one thing I hear people constantly ask about is who pays the buyer commission and who pays the listing agent's commission. Now, the thing with this is that it is negotiable. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't quite understand, and they believe that one party should be the one responsible for paying, when in reality, you need to understand that both parties are having representation. So if you are a seller, you want to seek counsel for somebody to represent you. Just like if you were a buyer, you want to have somebody that represents you in your best interest. If you're watching this video, you're more than likely a buyer. And one of the things that we have actually heard from even agents themselves is they don't understand the value that they bring to the table for their buyers. And that is a major red flag. Now, one thing that you should always consider when you are hiring an agent is somebody that is competent about the market. They need to be aware of the market because this is going to allow you to have somebody that is actually having your best interest in mind. Think about it this way. The simplest way to explain this is if you are selling a home, that listing agent has your best interest in mind. If you are buying a home, that buyer's agent has your best interest in mind. With that being said, if let's say you wanted closing cost, which if you have not seen the video that we talked about 4 key components on how to buy a home in today's market, we'll link that down below. But essentially, if you're trying to get closing cost assistance, one of the key components is it's gonna help you come to the closing table with less money out of pocket. If you go to the listing agent, they have a fiduciary duty to represent the seller. That is a non-negotiable. Meaning, if you go and ask the listing agent, hey, I need closing costs, I have no representation, I'm interested in the property. If they have the best interest in mind of the seller, what they are supposed to do is go back to the seller and say, this client really likes it. They're asking for closing costs. However, as your advisor, I would not recommend we do so. The house has just hit the market. Let's try and get them to pay for their own closing cost. I am telling you from experience, this is one of the things that happens a lot in the market. People believe that by going directly to the listing agent, they're going to have better chances. And if you're an investor and you already know what you're doing, that's a little bit different. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you want somebody that's actually going to negotiate for you, explain to you the process, not only that, but actually have your best interest. And in that situation, negotiate closing cost assistance for you and your family. key differences now between the settlement that has happened with NAR is that now we are not going to be able to add the commission that is being charged to the buyer's agent. What this essentially means is everything has always been negotiable. A lot of people don't understand that. They think the standard is a 6%. Some people in different markets think that the standard is a 2%. Some in other markets think that they can actually go up to a 7%. Everything is negotiable. Now, one of the key things I want you to focus on is now that you are going to be in a situation where the listing is not going to advertise whether they're going to be paying the buyer's agent or not, you are still being represented as the buyer. So what this means is that there's two things that can happen. Number one, the seller, if they are aware of how the market works, they're still going to want to cover that buyer commission, because unless their listing agent is able to actually procure their own buyer to that listing, they still need a buyer's agent to actually help them bring somebody like yourself to that listing. So more than likely, they're going to say, yes, we're willing to pay the 3% that typically, again, this is all negotiable, they are paid. However, if for some reason the listing agent says, hey, my seller's not going to pay your 3%, then you have two choices. You can still move forward, and now you would be covering that difference, whatever was negotiated upon you actually hiring your buyer's agent. Or two, you tell your buyer's agent, hey, I'm actually not interested in that. Let's go ahead and keep looking for a property that is going to pay your commission. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to comment down below, what's the point of actually even going with the buyer's agent? If that's the case, why not just go directly with the listing agent? And again, I'm gonna lay my point at the fact that you can 100% do that. But that also means that you might be paying more upfront depending on who you're going for. I've seen it happen time and time again where people get taken advantage of. A lot of people sometimes try and go for creative financing. It happened with the client. They try to go with creative financing. They got all the documents prepared, and at the end of the day, they found out that the seller, because of a clause that they put on the contract, was actually gonna come back for that home that they had been paying for over 2 years, plus the down payment that they put into the actual property. So this is just one of the examples that you want to keep in mind. And I like to use the example of you don't need to actually be represented in court by an attorney. It's your right to be represented by yourself. However, chances are you're going to want somebody that has your best interest to represent you in the court of law. Same thing goes when it comes to real estate. You don't need an agent, you've never have, but you want one that actually has your best interest in mind. Not just somebody that's gonna sit there on the sidelines and have you be the one to send them all the listings and all they do is be a door opener. That's the difference. So with that being said, I hope you're having a fantastic day. We will be making more videos for our sellers as well to understand the difference between a buyer's agent and a listing agent, so that you can really understand the difference and see what are your options and what are the best things that you can implement in this market.